Hello. Oh, doing a marathon class. Marathoner. Class. Hello.
Good evening.
My country people.
How are you doing?
How na dey? How far? Ah, na only una waka come ni.
Hello, sir.
Okay.
The others.
Madam Olubumi,
Yes,
how
sir.
market?
Market is fine, sir.
What is one thing that if you had not come to the first class, you wouldn't have known it? Tell me one thing.
If I had not come to the class, I wouldn't have known it. Um, oh, okay. Project phases.
No. You won't
Then
have no project faces.
escalation paths.
Escalation path. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by escalation path, madam?
Or I can say escalation path is a path where probably you end a path where you put an end to a project or you stop a project.
Is that escalation path? No, that's not escalation path.
Oh, okay. Let's say you are a phase or a project is about to stop.
Okay.
And then you now have to take a decision on whether to continue or to move to the next phase.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Makes sense. All right, thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Muhammad, you did market, you did there.
I think, not even think, the core takeaway or touch point from the last session has to do with being much more religious in following checklists. And this,
Tell us more about that.
looking at the way the project class is structured, there is always like let me say 95% insight on every area for you to consider how you should follow it in different aspects of code. And if one can be very religious in following those checklists and thinking around them, it actually makes everything much easier. Because everything in the project can be sweet in the beginning, either in terms of scope, in terms of schedule, even stakeholder. But even if you look at the enabler, they will still have a lot of other things that if you prepare for them, you will not be shocked. And some of these things can actually avoid high level of depression. Okay, you talk about the fishbone analysis for solving problem. If one can look at the root cause very well, one single matter can affect a lot of things in the project. But what I want to be doing much more now is to be very intentional in everything I do, and as soon as possible, follow checklists and even over follow it, so that when there are issues, even before the issue come, we are already prepared for them, because it does not make more sense as an entrepreneur to put a lot of effort in a project just because of one thing. Now be as if you are not even smart at all, and put everybody's effort into including your team member, your partner, even your family. Everybody will not be affected.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Okay. Madam Oluwase, your market. Hello, Madam Oluwase, are you with us?
Good evening, sir. Yes, I am.
You are late. Madam Oluwase, you are late.
Sir.
You
Yes,
are
I
late.
am. Sorry.
Okay.
I heard you. I just apologize.
No,
the last time I checked the clock, I still had about 5 minutes. But I think I just got deeper into what I was doing. By the time I looked at it, was already past.
Okay. So, yeah, tell us one thing you took out of the first session.
One thing I took out of the
first session.
Okay, the one we had in the afternoon. What did I take out? Okay, so we talked about make or buy as one of the very first analysis that has to be done when you come to procurement of services for a project. So yeah, the analysis has to decide whether you need to purchase, make, or you need to buy or lease. And some of the considerations that help that decision needs to be the impact on cost, on quality, as it relates to whether you make or you buy.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Madam Oluwase. Now I have a question for you. Can I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Good. How many lessons have we discussed in class?
How many lessons have we discussed? We've discussed 2 lessons.
So far, it's in the beginning.
From the beginning, yes. We've discussed
How many lessons have we discussed in class?
We've discussed 2 lessons.
Are you sure?
Yes.
What are they?
I'm sure. Building or creating a high-performing team.
Okay.
And starting the project.
Okay. Under creating a high-performing team, how many tasks do you remember?
Oh, okay.
No order. Just don't even check anything. Just freestyle. Just tell us what comes to your mind.
Fine. Okay, build a team.
1.
Setting the ground rules.
Yes.
Empowering team and stakeholders.
Yes.
Training team and stakeholders. Then ensuring that there is a shared understanding of the project.
Correct.
Unfortunately, that's how much I remember.
Okay. So that is our bossy, lesson 2. Yeah,
so we started looking at the plan and manage scope. Plan and manage procurement. At least that's a lot.
Yes.
Then plan plan and manage schedule.
Yes. Okay. else?
Also cost.
Also,
Plan and manage cost.
yes.
Um, um, quality. Managing, we say plan and manage quality and deliverables.
Yes. Yes. We discuss quality. That's correct. Okay.
Yes. Um, uh, and starting the we talked about methodologies also, determining methodologies for the project.
Correct. 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 Makes sense. Makes sense. Makes sense. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. So let us proceed on to the next level. We want to start a new thing today. Okay, so Mr. Muhammad, we are about moving to a new task, a new topic, sorry, a new lesson. What's the name of the lesson, Mr. Muhammad?
Doing the work.
What's the name of the previous lesson?
Starting a project.
What's the name of the first lesson?
Creating high performance.
Beautiful. Now, can you just read to us what are the tasks under doing the work? Quickly.
Test and manage risks. Execute project to drive business value.
Okay.
Manage communications. Engage stakeholders. Artifacts. Manage project changes. Manage project issues. Ensure knowledge transfer to project continuity.
Okay. Okay. Madam Olubumi, take water. Take water. Atishino, take water.
Thank you.
Question.
All right.
Why? I'm just wondering, why is assessing and manage risk sitting under doing the work and not, because there is also a good part of some of the topics tasks listed under starting the project that is also about doing the work, because they manage, for instance. So why is
correct
assess and manage risk sitting under doing the work?
The same reason why manage communication too is here.
Yes, I'm just wondering.
Look at communication too.
Yes, it's not risk alone. There's communication here. There is what again? Yes, versus, because if I also look at starting the project, they could probably have started under lesson 2.
I have that opinion too. I don't think there's any
special reason.
I can't think of any reason. Let me put it that way. I can't think of any reason. Rather, what I would just say is that even what you find, for me, if you ask me, lesson 2, lesson 3 is a continuum. That a lot of those things they flow. They just keep flowing within one another. For example, scope. Would you do scope matters when you are doing the work?
Because it's that you're
would you do cost matters when you are doing the work?
Exactly.
You understand? I just see it more of like a continuum of planning, execution, planning, execution.
Okay. So clear.
You understand? I see it as a continuum, planning, execution. So it's not like all those things during starting the work. So once when you are doing the work, you don't do those things again. A lie. You mentioned procurement. You say you use stock. You mentioned you mentioned again. you mention cost, you mention scope, you mention quality. Quality. Quality matters. Up to when you are finished, you still want to check again. Have I met requirements? It's not a starting only task.
Then
you understand? But they just organize it this way, not as if it is particularly cast on stone like this way.
Okay. Thank you.
Not as if it's particularly cast on stone. What I would just say is that see starting the work and doing the work as like the same. But they are just saying in order of the way you do it, those ones under starting the work generally come earlier.
More like the
and it's actually
more like the planning part of.
But we're not planning. Assess and manage risk is still part of planning. And it is when you want to assess and manage risk. Is it not here that you will determine the risk strategy you want to use? That's a planning.
So that's what I'm saying, because that was what I was talking about. So lesson 2 and 3 is like planning and executing. And even controlling.
It would be wrong to say starting the project is planning, doing the work is executing. It's not exactly correct.
No.
The two of them together is a combination of
2 and 3. I understand you.
See, don't let me bother you. Don't think of it that way. Even creating a high-performing team is also planning.
Yeah, well.
Identify stakeholder. What are you doing there?
The people side. So I guess it's just the basis, what do I call it? The
reality is you can't box. You cannot box these tasks into initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, and controlling process.
No, not anymore. Domains, yes.
They have spread these things out. What I just see is that when you are actually managing a project, most of the time, the first set of efforts is on scope, cost, quality. And the reason why we are saying quality is that when you see scope, quality will follow. Because scope gives you requirements. Quality tells you compliance, meeting requirements. So usually when you are working on a project, those are the first set of things you want to give your attention. You want to give your attention to project methodology. Which one should I use? Should I use this one or should I use this one? Those are those things that take the first set of effort. After you have been able, you said what?
I said that's true.
Yes. It's after you have done those ones, your scope is clear. Your clinical is clear. Then you now come to say, okay, what are the uncertainties about what I want to do? You first of all need to have an idea of what you want to do. And now go back and say, okay, what are the uncertainties about it? What are the uncertainties related to it? So, yeah, that's just my way of looking at it. So let's start with risk. Let's start with risk. Risk is very interesting. It's interesting because if you have a solid understanding of risk management, you would live a life of wherein, I'm trying to see the right word. You would live an active, no, not active, a conscious, what is it conscious? An intentional, you live life intentionally. Let me put it that way. You live life intentionally. You live life intentionally if you have a good understanding of risk. Because while others are seeing green, you will be seeing red and a unique color. Color maybe low form green. Is that not red and blue? No, red and blue is popular. Red and yellow in here, have you? Right?
Green, blue and yellow.
Yes, ma'am. It was red and yellow.
Red and yellow is orange.
Don't mind me. But then you find out why. Right. Don't mind me.
No, it's okay, no problem.
So you will be more detailed in your thinking. People are discussing. Everybody should because You will be more reserved. You'll be more cautious. Okay. Wow. Why is everybody taking this direction? What of this direction? Okay, if I think in this direction, what is the implication? Okay, if I now know the implication, what are the alternatives? Okay, if the alternatives happen, how do I handle it? So you expand your thinking. You expand your thinking. If you have a good understanding of risk management. Okay, so let's discuss. Here are the enablers. You have determine the risk response, risk management approach. There are different approaches. Determine the risk management approach. We'll come to that. So iteratively identify risks and risk responses. Iteratively prioritize risks and risk responses. Iterative in the sense that it's not one-off. You keep identifying. You keep identifying. You keep identifying every single time. In fact, it is said that you're supposed to discuss risk management matters in all your meetings. Okay? Determine risk response. Determine risk response. What do we mean by risk response? Risk response means that if it happens, what do we do? Then implement risk response. Madam Rubum, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Can you kindly go to the process table of the last syllabus in the group? What are the processes under risk management? Are you there?
I'm almost there, sir.
Okay.
Okay. I'm there.
I read to her.
We have the first process, plan risk management.
Plan risk management, okay?
And then the second one is to identify risk.
Second one is to identify. You first of all plan. Why are we planning? We are planning because when we plan, we want to pre-think through how we want to carry out all risk management related activities or work on the project. What standards, what thresholds, what, all those what, how, we want to determine them. So after we have done that, then we identify. How we will identify, we will put it inside our risk management plan. Please proceed.
Then number 3, we perform qualitative risk analysis.
Good. Qualitative risk analysis and quantitative risk analysis are two important risk management processes. Why? You will know why now. What's the next one after that?
After both, you have plan risk responses.
Good. Because it will be primarily impossible for you to plan risk responses for every identified risk. Please note, risk in this context is positive and negative. Positive risk is called opportunity. Negative risk is called what?
Threat.
Threat. Yes. So it is impossible for any human to be able to plan risk response for every possible uncertainty. It's not possible. You will never have the time. Even if you have the time, you will never have the resources. Because planning risk response is expensive. You need to spend resources. Madam Olubumi, do you understand what I mean by that?
Yes, sir.
Let me give you an example because of time. Do you agree with me that there is a risk that my internet connection will cut off right now? There's an uncertainty about that.
It's not certain.
You said what?
It's not certain that it will go off.
And that means it's a risk, it's an uncertainty.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Which risk response do you think I should do for that? How do you think I should respond to that uncertainty?
In case it happens, or because you
Yes.
know it's going to happen, or what?
Okay, so you want to wait till it happens before you now. That's being reactive,
Oh,
not being proactive.
okay.
That's being reactive.
Maybe by having a backup.
Good. The backup I will create, is it free?
Is it what?
Is it free?
I can't hear you well, sir.
Is it free?
It's not free.
Do you now understand when we say creating response plans are expensive? Maybe not expensive, but they are resource, they use resources. So, because I want to create risk response for that single one, you understand? I want to create for just that one. I can tell you all 50 different uncertainties about this class. I want a class right now, right? We will never have the time and money to create response for every possible one. So because of that, how do we handle it, Madam Olubumi?
Undo those uncertainties.
How do we handle it? Talk now.
By planning risk responses.
I said we can't plan risk response for every possible uncertainty.
Okay.
So what do we do?
Maybe we should probably perform quantitative analysis.
The answer simply means we need to analyze all the risks, identify the ones on top, and those are the ones we want to pay attention to. That's the answer. It's not possible for you to pay attention to everything. You will never have the time. You never have the resources. So that's the reason why we need to do risk analysis. Risk analysis is to help us in what? Prioritization. Madam Bumi, I just give you a fundamental principle that took me so long to understand. Do you understand that now?
Yeah, I do, sir.
Beautiful. So, after we have now planned risk response, what next?
We implement our risk responses.
After we implement risk response, is that all?
We then monitor the risks.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Okay, so here are our deliverables and here are our tools. Okay, risk. Yeah, Madam Olubumi, read this slide to us, please. Quickly, fast. Madam Olubumi, read the slide now.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you, sir. Risk.
Okay.
An uncertain event or condition that, if it occurs, has a positive or negative effect on one or more project objectives. Trigger condition. An event or situation that indicates that a risk is about to occur. The primary components include: 1, a measure of probability that the risk event will occur. The impact of the risk occurring on a project. Next, we have positive risks, which is risks that produce a positive project outcome, also referred to as opportunities. And then negative risk. These are risks that have a negative impact on the project, also referred to as threats.
Now, when you talk of risk, you must always talk of two things. If you don't talk of those two things, you will be severely and painfully misguided. Madam Olubumi, are you listening?
Yes, sir. You said when you talk of risk, it is important that you consider two things. Because if you don't consider these two things, it may not be funny at the end.
Say you'll be severely misguided.
Oh, you'll be severely misguided.
If you consider only one, you'll be severely misguided. And those two things are P and I. P and I. P and I.
And I. Okay.
P stands for probability of occurrence. I stands for impact.
Okay.
If you look at probability of occurrence alone, you go chop cane. If you look at impact alone, you go chop cane. You have to combine both of them. Let me give you a typical example. Madam Olubumi.
Sir.
When you are constructing, you say you're an engineer. When you are constructing a wall, constructing a building in Lagos, do you consider the uncertainty that earthquake can happen?
That
earthquake can happen.
That could be part of the uncertainty.
Okay, so you actually consider it, right?
Yes.
What is the impact of an earthquake on the building you are constructing?
The impact of the earthquake on the building is that if there are no measures taken to either limit the impact of the earthquake on the building, it could bring down the whole building.
Good. So if you have spent $1 million on the building, what is the impact of an earthquake on that building?
That's
the potential impact.
The building coming down.
Yes. So the potential impact in terms of money is $1 million or even more. Because if the building comes down, you will have lost the cost of the building and you even incur money to clear it. God forbid if people don't even lose lives. I will not be so, Madam Olubumi.
No, so, sir.
Now, if you were to rank uncertainties by impact, will the uncertainty of earthquake not come very high?
Yes, it will come very high.
Of the impact of that uncertainty as a threat will not come very high.
Yeah, it will, because of the damage that is going to cause.
Yes, is that not misleading? If you consider impact alone, it's misleading. Consider the impact.
You have to also consider the probability of the occurrence, if it will happen or not. Okay.
So you now look at it and say, what probability of occurrence of earthquake in Lagos? 0.001.
Yeah.
By the time you give me the segment, boom, it crashes down. Let me give another instance. If you have a particular equipment that is scarce, electricians like that equipment a lot, but they can't buy it, even though it's cheap. Maybe you bought it for 10,000 naira. Or let me say, there's a particular tester. You know, there's one particular tester like that. Very, very strong, durable, scarce. You bought it from Germany when you traveled. The electrician saw it. As you are looking at that electrician, we schedule wako, pako, by the boy, my GP. You understand the point? Okay. Now, at that point, give me a percentage. What do you think is the percent? And another electrician has been saying, if you for work on, okay. And then you drop it on the table. You now forgot that something. You forgot it near the gates of the construction site. Near the gates. What do you think is the probability that you meet it the next day?
Half. 0.5.
Eh? 25K. Eh,
Half.
75.
Mm.
Okay, that you will meet it. Okay, what's the probability that it will be stolen?
15.
Okay, let's say 50%.
50%. That's half.
When you are ranking your uncertainties, will an uncertainty of 50% not rank high if you are looking at probability of occurrence alone?
Yeah, high.
But what is the impact?
The impact of that
losing the screwdriver,
of losing that,
yes.
it will cause maybe a delay in work, or
no, you buy another tester and that's it.
yes, now delay, because if the tester is not there for you to do what you want to do, whatever, yeah, it causes delay, and it will amount to you spending another money getting the
okay. Worst case scenario that you buy another tester for 10K. Okay,
yes,
let's quantify the delay. Depending when you go and buy another cheaper tester for 300 naira across the street. Okay, total impact
12,300.
10,300. Now look at those two uncertainties. One has an impact of $1 million and probability of occurrence of 0.00001. And that one has an impact of 10,300, probability of occurrence of 50%. Do you now understand when we say, when you are talking of risk, you must always be time for probability of occurrence and impact. The two must go together. If you consider only one of them without considering the second one, you'll be what?
You will be misguided.
You'll be misguided. Do you understand how you'll be misguided now?
Yes, sir.
Beautiful. We explained something here called trigger condition. Do you know what it means? Do you understand the meaning of trigger condition?
You said it's an event or situation that indicates that a risk is about to occur.
And that's textbook definition. What do you understand by trigger condition?
Well, maybe it's like a situation now whereby you know that this risk is going to happen, or maybe you don't know, or you are seeing it happening.
Sorry, again, please. Again, please say that again.
Probability of a risk happening.
Is that what you call a trigger event, a trigger condition?
Yeah, probability of a risk happening.
No. Madam Oluwaseyi, what's trigger condition?
Okay, so well, a trigger is something that's like a precursor for something. So
a precursor for something, yeah. Okay.
So it probably will be something that will set off the actualization or the happen or a risk.
Exactly. A trigger. When you pull a trigger, bullet comes out. So pulling the trigger is that thing that signifies that risk involved. Triggering, risk will not tell you. That kind of thing. Trigger, then outcome. The uncertainty is coming. It's just like now, when you now see clouds gathering, what does it tell you?
Rain is about to fall.
There's high probability that rain will fall. So that's the same reason why when you want to manage risk, you must be able to identify the triggers. All right. So there's a trigger for weakness now, trigger for sleeping. I've seen a trigger. So let's manage the trigger by going on break. Stretch our hands, stretch our legs. You understand? All right. So we'll go break.
How many minutes break?
Come on, Dibe.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Okay, great. Bachelor, bye. Okay. So, madam, is it safe to assume now that at least in terms of risk, you are comfortable? You understand what risks are?
Yes, sir.
Beautiful. So, let's proceed with our risk management plan. Madam, I explained something earlier. I said anytime you hear something management plan, what does it mean?
Anything management, it means it's a process of identifying.
No, well, identifying what?
Identifying identifying, it could be cost, it could be scope, it could be schedule.
What, when you say something management plan, what is that document doing?
The document entails all these things that I mentioned, because in that same management plan, that's where you have your scope, you have your cost, you have budget and resources, you have schedule, risk, quality.
Okay, okay, okay. You're not getting my question right. You have tried, but there's a small misunderstanding there. Mr. Mohammed, are you there? Just hear your opinion.
Yes. I'm here.
When you say something management plan, what's that document about?
Well, I was not hearing you talk about it, but from my experience,
You can't say that. I've mentioned it like 5 times in this class.
process
Or more, self.
it's process oriented.
Tunjebe, say it in Yoruba.
Process.
Uh, how does that answer my question?
Okay, let me see. I don't have an idea.
Egbamu. Hey. Madam Luasheyi, are you in class or you are carried away by kitchen matters?
Major aspect of the knowledge areas.
You said what?
Not the scope, now according to. That should do with the knowledge areas. Good job.
Hey. When you hear something management plan, what does it mean? Okay, for example, when you hear scope management plan, what do you think that document is supposed to be for?
To be for anything that is related to scope, any scope related matters.
You have the idea from what you have just said now. It's clear you understand what you want to say, but maybe you are just not wording it the right way. When you hear scope management plan, what it means is that you want to write a document that contains a lot of how of how you will do scope related matters on the project. How will you handle it? What metrics are you going to use? What thresholds? How do you want to control? How do you want to like a constitution? I think I like that word better. It's like a constitution that is supposed to guide how you will do all scope related matters on the project. When you hear something management plan, see it as like an ultimate guide towards all what you want to do. Madam Lubimi, do you have that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now using that template I've given you, now tell me what is the risk management plan?
Okay, risk management plan can be like it can be, okay, let's say a guide to
Okay.
writing a document on any risk related matters.
Okay. Yeah, I read from the slide.
Risk management plan, a component of a project, program, or portfolio management plan that describes how risk management activities will be structured and performed.
This has what you have a list. This list you have here are some of those things, some of those how that you want to define in your risk management plan. Remember, I told you, I said in your something management plan, you write down more of like you want to do fortune telling. To say this is how I want to do it, this is how I want to do it, this is how I want to do it. For example, your risk management plan, you write it there. This is the risk strategy I want to use. This is the risk methodology I want to use. These are the roles and responsibilities I want to assign. This is the kind of funding matters I want to do. This is the kind of timing I want to use. This is the kind of risk categories I want to use. Stakeholder risk appetite. This is the figure. The definition of risk probability and impact, put it there. Probability and impact matrix, put it there. Reporting format, this is how I want it. Tracking document, this is how I want it. Do you get that now?
Yes, sir.
So that's it. So when you say risk identification, there are different, in fact, every single thing about the project, they have a tendency to find out, okay, say I can see risk for here, I can see uncertainty. Madam, okay, Mr. Muhammad, can you tell me 10 uncertainties about this class? 10. I'm going to time you. You have 90 seconds. Your time starts now.
10 uncertainty. Okay. One, that can be changed. Okay, you will not finish within the allocated time, which is already happening.
Okay. One uncertainty is that we will not finish, we will not reach where we want to reach at the end of today.
Based on the schedule. Okay,
That's
for
one.
one of the uncertainties.
30 seconds gone, 60 seconds left.
One or more of the students can slip off a class.
Good. There's an uncertainty that one or more of students can slip off in class. 2.
Internet of one or more students may misbehave.
3. Internet of one or more students may misbehave.
They can take light now as I did here.
Okay. They can take light now, and then the person's device would power down. 4.
Yes. What was that saying? An emergency can happen that will leave me, that will leave class. You call my name, you will not know if I have slept off or what happened. Just emergency happen.
An emergency can happen now, and somebody would have to leave class, even if it's against the person's will. That's 5. Okay, you have tried. Let me stop at that point. Why did I do this exercise? That's to tell you that when you are dealing with identification of uncertainties, you should be detailed. You should be detailed. Risk identification is not a joke. You practically have to become a detective. The human cannot see everywhere. Because an uncertainty that you did not take care of can come back and bite you. Do you understand that? An uncertainty that you refused to take care of can come back and bite you. And the biting of that kind of uncertainty will be very, very bad. So that is why you don't leave chances. You do things the right way. So in terms of identifying risk, you look everywhere, check everywhere. Check documents, relate to people, review processes, review different things. So when you say risk management approach, what do we mean? Essentially what we mean is that, okay, project risk management is that knowledge area that includes the processes for conducting risk planning, identification, analysis, response planning, response implementation, and monitoring. Madam Olubumi, these things I've just read out now, Are they different from those processes you also read out earlier?
No, sir.
Planning, identification, analysis, risk response planning, implementation of risk response, control and monitor risk.
Monitoring risk. Yeah. They're not different. They're
So
not.
that is essentially what they call risk management. So as part of your managing risk, you should be able to categorize your risk or classify. So you can classify risk based on the effect of the risk, and you can also classify risk based on the source of the risk. So note that. Then you now have some other types of risk. You have what they call business risk, and you also have insurable risk. These are just some terminologies. Some terminologies about risk. Business risk, something that has to do with your business, potential for loss and profit. Insurable risk, this one, only potential for loss. Insurance may be purchased to offset losses. Example, loss of inventory due to fire. That one is insurable risk. Okay. So now, business risk. Don't forget, when we say business risk, those are the ones that we said that can lead to both, that has potential for both profit and loss of profit. So types of business risk: competitive risk, legislative risk, monetary risk, operational risk. These are just stories that you can read up. Risk tolerance, appetite, and thresholds. These are very important um, keywords, terminologies that you want to master. Risk tolerance is how much can you endure. You understand? That's what we mean by risk tolerance. How much of risk can you stomach? It's a bit similar to risk appetite. Risk tolerance is the maximum amount of risk that you can tolerate, that you are willing to accept. When I say you now, the maximum amount of risk and the potential impact of that risk occurring that the project manager or key stakeholder is willing to accept. That's your risk tolerance. Risk appetite, the degree of uncertainty an organization or individual is willing to accept in anticipation for a reward is similar to the tolerance. Okay. Risk threshold, the level of risk exposure above which are risks are addressed. As in, okay, risk threshold means that any risk below this particular risk threshold, no wahala, we can cope. Any risk above this threshold, we have to discuss it. That's what this essentially means. Okay, this is a very important slide. Mr. Toyajani, are you with us? Is Mr. Toyajani with us? Okay. Madam Luashe, please read this thing to us. Quickly, please. Quickly.
Guidelines
Please.
to iteratively identify, assess, and prioritize risk. Perform a structured review of appropriate documentation from other planning processes with key project stakeholders to ensure an understanding of each. Use one or more risk identification techniques to identify risk and their possible triggers. Be consistent. Whatever method you adopt, apply it systematically across your project. Before the project begins, identify risks in every project segment and work package. Apply your method consistently, but be on the lookout for special circumstances that might arise in any project segment. Consult relevant historical information, such as risk response plans and final reports from previous similar projects that may include lessons learned, describing problems and their resolution. Once risks have been identified, group them into categories that reflect common sources of risk for your industry or application area. Use the results of your analysis to initiate the risk register.
Beautiful. The risk register is like your logbook of risk. The risk register is like your logbook of risk. So these guidelines you see here are guidelines to help you in identifying risk continuously. You assess and you prioritize. Thank you very much. So I mentioned that you have qualitative risk analysis and quantitative risk analysis. Quantitative risk analysis is a lot more technical, but qualitative risk analysis is subjective, such that you are simply looking at each risk and you are trying to give it a rating based on a subjective scale. Subjective, like maybe you can say high, medium, low. That's subjective. That's a subjective scale. Or you can say on a scale of 10, will you rank this risk? And then somebody says, okay, I give you the score of 6 out of 10. That's subjective. So it's a technique used to determine probability of occurrence and impact. So it determines the risk exposure of the project by multiplying probability and impact. It provides the list of prioritized risks for further action. And this is something we call the risk and impact matrix. Because when you want to evaluate risk, you do PI. Remember I mentioned it earlier that you cannot look at P in isolation. You cannot look at I in isolation. Madam Luashe, what is P? What is I?
What is what? P.
What is P? What is I?
P is probability. I is impact.
Probability of occurrence.
Of the risk occurring, yes. And I is the impact of the risk when it occurs.
So when you are evaluating risk, you want to consider P and I together. So you multiply your P and your I. That gives you the evaluation of risk of that uncertainty. So this is like they call this the probability and impact matrix, wherein you can see multiplications. If P is 0.01 and I is 0.01, multiplication is 0.01. And this if P is 0.1 and I is 0.1, the PI is 0.01. If P is 0.9 and I is 0.8, PI is 0.70. So this is like a four-figure table of those days. So you now determine your risk threshold as an organization. You can say, okay, any risk beyond this is how we handle it. Anyone beyond this is how we handle it. Anyone without this is how we handle it. So this is just like a four-figure table guide for you. So quantitative risk analysis, this technique is used to assess the risk exposure of events to overall project objectives and determine the confidence levels of achieving project objectives. This one is more specific. This one, you go into a lot of calculation for quantitative risk analysis. All the calculation is not in the scope of the PMP exam. As in this quantitative risk analysis is not in the scope of PMP exam. And it gets the calculation and all of those things. It's not. So just know that in qualitative risk analysis, you are talking about subjective scale. Okay, red for danger, red for very bad, amber for okay, green for very good. Just subjective scales like that, that's what we use. But in quantitative risk analysis, you want to talk in naira and kobo, dollar and cents. If you want to see what is the impact, you want to measure the impact financially or resource-wise. So quantitative risk analysis is a technique to assess the risk exposure of events to the overall project itself. It helps you to identify cost contingencies of the project and create and enhance prioritization risk alone. That's how I'm going to explain it. Because of time, I have to use my explanation. Risk response essentially means that the reason why we are managing risk is because we want to be proactive. Mr. Mohammed, can you give me another word for being proactive?
Cautious.
Say what?
Sagacious.
Again, please.
Sagacious.
Wrong. Sagacity means wisdom. That doesn't mean being proactive.
Okay.
That's what I know of sagacity. I don't know if there's another meaning for it.
Or SEG sagacity. That is what proactive is. What you mean by that?
SEG sagacity. You will see Jebao.
I'm lost, you.
You're lost.
It depends on the school. You know, if you go to UI, you go to UI, there's no SEG in UI. But we guided from tax sweat, from Osu, so it's relative. I don't give an example, it's relative.
Ọ̀gá proactive. Kí ni ìtumọ̀ ẹ̀? Ẹ sọ Yorùbá.
Proactive.
When somebody is proactive, what does it mean?
Not being reactive.
Not being reactive. Ìyá rẹ̀ kò ìgàn. Ẹ ní ìjẹ̀gbà. What's proactive, Joe? I need another name. I need another synonym.
To foresee?
But you can say it in Yoruba.
Is it to foresee?
You're on track. Proactive doesn't mean to foresee alone.
To plan ahead. To prevent. To like planning ahead. Planning ahead.
So if I combine both of them, it will be foresee and plan ahead. That's being proactive. So the dictionary meaning is creating or controlling a situation rather than just responding after it has happened. While others are trying to react after it has happened. You are foreseeing that it could happen. You have a plan on ground. So once it happens, you are just executing your plan. While others are just thinking, okay, what do we do? You already have a plan because you have foreseen that it can happen. And then you have already had a plan. That plan here is what we call risk response. Mr. Momo, did you call him?
Risk response.
We are read this slide to us.
Planning risk response consists of developing options, selecting strategies, and agreeing on actions to address overall project risk exposure, as well as to treat individual project risk. Okay, risks are addressed by priority and resources, and activities can be added to the budget, schedule, and project management plan to support the risk. Each risk is assigned a risk response, which is an action to address that risk, and a person to implement that action. There are various risks.
Please take that point number 3 again. Take that number 3 again.
Each risk is assigned a risk response, which is an action to address that risk, and a person to implement that action. Deep. There are various risk response strategies to choose from to determine a risk response for each risk. A fallback plan can also be developed in case the primary strategy is not effective. Secondary risks should also be reviewed. These are risks that could occur as a result of implementing a risk response.
We'll come to that. Okay. So when you have risks, when you have risks, you want to have risk response for the ones you have prioritized. You have risk responses for threats and you have for opportunities. For threats, you have ATM. A for avoid, T for transfer, M for mitigate. Avoiding means you want to change your course of response.
Sorry, sir.
Because
What about escalating? Because you jumped that one.
I'll come to that.
Okay.
If you notice, if you come for the one for positive, you can see escalate and accept there too. Can you see it?
Okay.
Can you see escalate and accept? The same with negative, escalate and accept.
Yes.
So the escalate and accept, they are in both positive and negative
yes.
risk responses. So I'll come back to that.
Okay.
So for negative risk responses for your threats, how do you handle threats? Mr. Mohammed, give me an example of a threat.
One, firstly, threat is something. Firstly, threat is external. Example of threat that is recent can be one, anything threat is external. It's an external oriented risk.
Not necessarily in the context of
risk.
Okay, in the context of,
you are looking at threat in the context of SWOT analysis.
Negative.
But in this case now, we are looking at risk in the direction of it can be positive, it can be negative.
Yeah.
If it is positive, it is called opportunity. If it is negative, it is called threat. Right. So now, just give me one example of a negative and ambiguity or unsure event that can happen. Just give me one example.
Okay, unsure event in project. For example, if I'm planning a project now, that has to do with internet usage. I know Airtel has a data plan of 100K for 1 terabyte, which makes a lot of sense. But the risk there is that if I do it and I'm unable to register the SIM card for NIN, after 2 months, the remaining gig will waste if that SIM card is not linked to NIN. So it's a risk.
Okay, let's take that now. The risk that the SIM might not, the threat that the SIM might not eventually be registered and you lose all the money. Good. Risk response strategy. Yes. Oh yeah, if you want to avoid that risk, what do you do?
Is to one, link the NIN, then get data, initiate the process.
No.
Is to use another
not use that line.
Don't use that line. That's avoid. Avoid means change course of action to something else.
Okay, so use another line.
Yes, or use another system. It doesn't have to be another line. Just avoid that thing that has that risk entirely. Avoid the risk. Go to something else. That is the avoidance. That is the avoid way of risk response strategy. Okay, Mr. Mohammed, what is the transfer? If you say we want to transfer, in this use case now, what does it mean to transfer risk?
Is to look at how that risk can be on somebody else's neck.
Simple. Simple. Transfer it.
That process, yes, now even till NIN issue also, that is somebody I know very well that doesn't want to expose himself because of his configuration, what the type of business he does. Now, and because of that now, he didn't link his own NIN with his own he does not link his SIM card with his own BVN. He used somebody else's SIM card for his BVN. So you want to transfer it to me, I calculate. So I also carry it and I transfer it to somebody else.
Hey, Madam Oluwaseyi, can you hear the confession of an ex?
I am laughing.
In-class confession of somebody who witnessed a potential fraud event.
Sorry.
I'd like to know.
Not necessarily fraud, but it's risk oriented.
Okay.
It is what you say.
Anyway, That's share transfer. Oh yeah, Mr. Mohammed, what is mitigate? If you get mitigate, I will give you a book.
Okay, this mitigate is to look at discussing it. Because most of the things we fear does not eventually happen. But discussing it will give us an idea of even the risk impact. If we now see that the risk impact will not be much, then we will not know what to do. Because mitigate simply means reducing the impact, and discussing it will be part of it. Or negotiating, changing negotiation strategy. That okay, if this, let's assume I'm having an investment deal with an investor, I have some of them. Instead of me taking 40%, I can negotiate 70%. So I have more money to put more system in place. So the tendency of loss will be reduced. So I mitigate the risk of going bankrupt because of investors' fund. Because I'll be able to negotiate a better deal, and I'll look for a way of convincing them. It's also a way of mitigating.
Well, you have just made the same mistake a lot of people make. Mitigation means 2 or 3 things. Number one, how do you reduce the probability of occurrence? Number 2, how do you reduce the impact? Number 3, how do you reduce both probability of occurrence and impact?
Okay, maybe I should take it one by one.
You get my point?
Okay, I think, yes.
How do you reduce the probability of occurrence? How do you reduce the impact, or reduce both? That's risk mitigation.
Okay. Is to make the SLA clear. Make the SLA very clear.
Simple. For example, say, if you want to reduce probability of occurrence, maybe probability of occurrence that you have NIN registration problem. What do? Figure out something you can do to do that. Impact. Okay, even if the NIN eventually happens, what's the impact? How can you reduce that impact? For example, part of reducing the impact is that share the data on that line before the 2 months, before it comes. So that even if that line becomes inactive, the shared line continues to work. That's a way of reducing the impact. You understand? Management is sweet, but the problem is translating all these theories into practical lifestyle is hard.
It has to be proved.
In real life, when you need these things, it takes a lot of willpower and seriousness to be able to muscle all these things you know into practical value. You understand my point? Because essentially, all these things you are saying, you cannot be implementing these things except like genius. As well, let's not continue the class, yeah. But the core I'm just saying is this is raw wisdom that we just need to look for a way to revive. Raw wisdom. If you understand risk management, you'll be so proactive with life. You'll be so proactive with life. Oh my God. Anyway, that's that. So we have escalate, we have accept. Escalate means agbára mi ò ká, ọ̀gá, come and handle it. That's what escalate means. I can't handle it, let somebody hire. Escalate. Go and report to senior management. Go and report to sponsor. That's escalate.
Or USO. That is USO.
Well, then boys, then Sonny, accept means that there's nothing I can do. If it comes, it comes. If it comes, it comes. Mohammed, use nose mask. Reduce probability that you will catch COVID. I know you. If I catch them, I catch them. That's risk acceptance. You get. That's risk acceptance.
It happens to me. Something similar happened.
So now you know the difference between all of them. Yes. So for positive risk, you have escalate, you have accept, then you have SEE or EES, anyone. Exploit, enhance, and share. Exploit, enhance, and share. Exploit is like the inverse of avoid. Enhance is like the inverse of enhance. Sorry, Enhance is the inverse of transfer. Share is the inverse of mitigate. So for example, now, in the case of risk, of threat, you want to avoid. Avoiding means change course of action to be able to run away from something. Exploit means you actively change course of action to be able to meet a particular opportunity. That's that. Enhance involves you enlarging the pie to bring in some third party to come and help you ensure you achieve an opportunity. Share is just like you go into partnership with an organization so as to increase the probability of you getting a particular opportunity. Yeah, that's it. So, contingency plans. A risk response strategy developed in advance before things go wrong. It is meant to be used if and when the identified risks become and allows the project manager to react quickly and appropriately to risk event, mitigating its negative impact or increasing its potential benefit. It may include a fallback plan for risk with high impact. Okay? Madam Lubumi, I've not heard your voice in the past 15 minutes. What's the proof that you're in class?
Sir?
Madam Lubumi, I said I've not heard your voice in 15
Sir?
minutes.
Risk mitigation.
Yes, ma'am. I said I've not heard your voice in the past 15 minutes, Madam Lubumi.
I'm here, sir.
Okay, you have just woken up, Abby.
No, I wasn't sleeping.
Yeah, I read the slide was speaking.
Okay. Guidelines to determine and implement risk responses. Examine each identified risk to determine its causes and how it may affect projects or project objectives. Brainstorm possible strategies for each risk. 2, choose the response strategy that is most likely to be effective for each identified risk. 3, if you're unable to bring a risk rating below the organization's risk threshold, ask your sponsor for help. 4, identify backup strategies for risk with high risk factor scores. 5, determine the amount of contingency reserves necessary to deal with accepted risks. 6, determine how much of a contingency reserve you should set aside for unknown risks. 7, consult the risk management plan for the description of the content and format of the risk response plan. 8, incorporate the risk response plan into the overall project plan so that the strategies can be implemented and monitored.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Madam. At this point, let's move on to the next topic. Under doing the work. The topic is to execute projects to deliver being value. Voice me, I'll tell my brain. Sorry. All of them don't chop. Me, I never chop. If I chop like this, I go sleep throughout class. So that's what I need. See, I was in your class 2 to 5. I was in a meeting 5 to 7, 7:30 again, 7:30, 10:30. I'm in class. You 10:30. It's 9 o'clock. I'll be 30 minutes, 40 minutes. I need to Baba lost.
Pẹ̀lẹ́ ló jẹun kẹ́ ló sùn sá. Lákòókò sí yòókù di Wednesday lágbára
Ọlọ́run. Wednesday kẹ̀ wo orí mi ṣàánú ẹjẹ́ máa bá kíláàsì lọ. We are just starting lesson 3 ọ̀nà jìbàjẹ́.
Ẹ̀yin náà lè sọ pé ẹ̀yin náà lè láwẹ̀ ń gbòyìn pé bí pààyàn adẹ̀ ní kẹ́ lọ jẹun sódà ẹ̀ lè lọ sinmi.
Attendance, our Ghana attendance man.
Execute project to deliver business value. Yes. We want to deliver business value. Because if you don't deliver business value, why are we wasting our time? Why are we wasting our money? Why are we wasting resources working on projects? So what this means is that at every point in time, you are working on a project. You always want to keep tabs on what are my requirements? What are my big objectives? How do I ensure that at every point in time, I'm working in the direction of meeting my quality standard? So here are our enablers. We want to execute projects to deliver business value. One of those things we need to do is assess the opportunities to deliver value incrementally. We want to deliver business value. We must always look out for opportunities to deliver the value. Deliver business value. We need to examine the business value throughout the project. Because if you don't examine, how do we know we are delivering business value? So you have to keep measuring business value as you are progressing to ensure you are delivering business value. And if you think you are not delivering business value, you need to quickly start doing your modification and blah, blah, blah to be able to ensure you are actually delivering business value. Okay, you want to deliver business value. You need to support the team to subdivide the task to find the minimum viable product. This is a very important point. Don't forget, never manage a big thing as a big thing. Always break things down. So in the direction of wanting to deliver business value, it will usually require that you manage things in small bits. Then measure ongoing progress based on whatever methodology you are using. Yes, it is when you measure progress that you know whether you are creating value or not. Collect and analyze data to make informed project decisions. Collect and analyze data. It is when you collect and analyze data that you're able to measure. So all these things are data related. Okay. This is a very important point. Creating a culture of urgency. In fact, this is a very important point. Creating a culture of urgency. The leaders who are able to create a culture of urgency in an organization, they are more productive and they get more value from their team. So you as a project manager, how are you able to create a culture of urgency wherein people on your team, they are able to perform even with little supervision, understanding the goals and vision, and able to proceed towards the mission as you are making your project, as you are working on the project. So you need to ingrain a sense of urgency in the project culture, in the project environment. This culture of urgency is a major problem. You visit some places and you'll be disgusted. How are you people doing work yobo like this? Sometimes you have some staff. Madam Uluwashi, you don't
Yes,
explain such things. So some people, they just be doing work yobo like that. It's simple report, submit 5 hours after, I'm about finishing. Like that. Simple 4-page report. You cannot finish it in 1 hour or in 30 minutes or something. And then, the funny thing, these kind of very terrible people, they are the same people you will see them, motion without movement. They are making motion, but no movement. They are still on that same position. That's just there. You see them making motion, but no movement, no results, no deliverable. That one is part 1. Part 2 is now of the mischievous people who are, you think they are actually working, but they are gone again. You think they are working on your project. They have one side gig that is taking 90% of their attention. So you as a project manager, how do you create a culture of competency and urgency? Establishing and cultivating the appropriate project urgency culture is an ongoing task. It's ongoing. It starts from the mind. You work on their mindsets. And then it starts from the way you structure their work and the way you monitor and control their work. Those are the 3 major areas of creating a culture of mindset, a culture of urgency. Starts from the mindset. In fact, starts from, the mind, not that way. Starts from the mindset. Then starts from how you structure work. And it starts from how you monitor and control their work. You need to have a superb appraisal system in place to do monitoring and controlling of people's work. Project manager can lead the way by articulating projects' importance and vision. You need to give them big picture. I need to reiterate all the time. I remember, because of time, let's reduce our distance. Everyone involved can commit to striving towards the vision, and they should be accountable to. Everyone involved can commit to striving towards the vision, and they should be accountable to striving towards the vision. Because if you want to create a culture of urgency, it is difficult to create urgency on the day's task. You have to be a micromanager for you to be able to create urgency for something very close. You create urgency by making people see the big picture. That way, those who can move fast can boom, they can move. Don't let me talk too much on that. Bringing in the voice of the customer can express the desires and personalize the value. The project team can promote the culture in their daily actions, responsiveness, and attentiveness. Okay? All right. Mr. Mahmoud, tell us, examination of business value. Tell us about it.
Business value, the net quantifiable benefit derived from a business endeavor. The benefits may be tangible, intangible, or both. Determining exactly what is of value requires examination, evaluation, and confirmation. Throughout a project, a variety of means for determining what is of value can be used. Business value can be 1, financial, 2, improvement, 3, new customer, 4, first to market, 3, social, 4, social, 6, technological. Kò dàrú mo fẹ́ lo copywriter style tẹ́lẹ̀ mo kò tó wá change ni.
Okay. At least to some extent, we have an idea of the definition of value. So there's something called the product roadmap. It's like a high-level description or of way forward for the project. It's a high-level visual summary of the product or the product of the project. Very presentation and performance and appearance. It is objective. The objective is to display the strategy going forward, and the direction of that to be built and value to be delivered. When you say what's the roadmap of this thing, and you say, okay, by 2020 something, you want to be here, by this you want to be here, or by this date you want to have these features, by this you want to have these features, something high level. So roadmap starts with the overarching vision of over time. The roadmap is progressively elaborated as more information is known. What is being completed or not completed, and the vision is refined. It's refined. Themes emerge to provide structure and association. Product roadmaps provide short-term and long-term visualization. Incremental delivery. Mr. Toyajani, can you read this to us, please? Mr. Toyajani, do you mind reading this to us?
Incremental delivery provides the means to deliver value sooner than later.
Okay.
Early and regular incremental releases lead to higher customer value and increased market share. Enables the customer to receive parts of parts or elements of the product prior to the full product delivery, allows
Okay.
users and the business to consume the targeted value and provide feedback to the project team. Feedback enables adjustments to the direction, priorities, and quality of product. Conversion with stakeholders is required to find stable increment. Conversation.
What's that?
Conversation with stakeholders is required to find suitable increments. Stakeholders receive a usable product with the expectation that additional features and revisions will come.
So, Mr. Toyajani, what is incremental delivery?
Okay, basically, I'll just take one of them. Maybe it says allow users and business to consume the targeted value and provide feedback to the project team. Enable the customer to receive parts or elements. Okay, that's one I like to use. Mainly, I think it's more around enabling customers to receive parts or elements of a product prior to the full product delivery. So when the finished product is not ready, you understand, then we can have something that is added and the value has been added, but it's not up to completion. So we are already at stage 1.1. So we were going to stage 1.5, but we've added 1.2. So 1.2 is already something we've added and is usable. So at that point, you can see it's incremental delivery. I think so.
Viable product. Government, yeah. Explain the MVP of PMP, not of startup world.
MVP, the smallest collection of features that can be included in a product for customers to consider it functional. In lean methodologies, the smallest collection of features that can be included in a product for customers to consider it functional. In lean methodologies, it can be referred to as bare bones, no frills functionality. An MVP allows all stakeholders to see and experience some form of project outcomes. A tangible output channels target conversation, which generates feedback and ideas. MVP provides inspiration to the team and ignites shorter-term urgency and a sense of accomplishment.
Do you understand what you have just read out?
Yes, I understand it from the PMP perspective.
So we talk about incremental delivery, in which just add whatever form of small updates and get that level ready. And they now have the minimum viable products approach, MVP, wherein we want to say rather than look at X-ray by X-ray, we are looking at say we're looking at something like how much of the long list of features that I want, which of them is critical that you can use to start? That's the question we're asking. Okay, thank you very much. There's something called minimum business increment. Mr. Momo, do you read this again?
Yeah.
The smallest amount of value that can be added to a product or service that benefits the business. MBI is more valuable when an MVP might be disruptive to the users and business, especially when the basic preliminary products to get interest is not necessary. MBI works best when the product and functions are understood. An incremental increase of a value can be pinpointed. The delivery of some of that value benefits the business. Advantages of MBIs: enables project team to deliver bits of value sooner, helps team validate whether or not improvement has been captured, enables team to incrementally build on that success or pivot as needed.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Objection, please. Objection,
All right.
please. Hello. Objection, please.
Yo, guy.
I think
Proceed,
in the
please.
overall interest of the entire class, I think we should end the class. A
Why is
suggestion.
it? Why?
And you need to rest so that we will be able to use you again the next time we have our class. So maybe we should do 30 minutes. I don't know what others think. You need to rest. So if you rest, we'll be able to use you well next time.
Yes. Okay.
Not because we care so much that you should go and rest, but because of our own selves, you understand?
Abba. Abba.
Hey.
He knows I'm joking. So. But this man needs to rest before you fall for
You
chair.
rest. No.
This kid,
Okay,
so you can continue.
Not that bad. I was actually hoping that if you look at my slide, if you look at my screen, you can see that we have just 2 slides before we finish this part. At the end of this one, I wanted us to go on like 5 minutes, 10 minutes break. And then once
Break or you close. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Close shop.
I love this people.
I don't clear now. I is clear. There is a trigger. This kit has made Oga eye to clear. So you can go for a break and come back.
Hey.
Okay, no
Okay.
break. Just do this remaining this thing and let's go. We'll continue on the Wednesday.
Auntie Bumi, I see
Yeah,
you.
brother Ibrahim.
Hey, I see you.
Well, it's because we care. It's because we care.
No, his eye is already clear. He's a programmer. Don't forget to. He's a former programmer. He still code himself. So.
Cody. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, let's analyze. Okay. Today we are in this is lesson 3.
Lesson 3.
Lesson 3 that was
Today is lesson 3. If we don't finish lesson 3 today, let's assume we get to middle of lesson 3. But with what we are even saying, we won't even get to middle of lesson 3. Where do we want to get to on Wednesday? It's likely that it is on Wednesday that we rush and finish lesson 3. Remaining lesson 4. And remaining lesson 5. The mock exam. The first mock exam. And the mock exam is supposed to be next week Saturday. Have I mentioned mock exam to you getting bouncing on here?
You're just mentioning
exams. Yes, 8. Tuesday, 8 mock exams. So I won't give you any time to go and say, yeah, go and read. I think read none. MarB Class, let's read none here. You understand? Even though when we finish the class, we will come back to go and start from scratch for that. You understand? But that will not be in another form. It's not like in this live class form, being another form. Anyway, since all the elders in class have said that we should rest, we have actually tried this sincerely. I should what's this word? I should
commend yourself.
No, I should appreciate. No, not me, you now. Sincerely, 2 to 5, then went on short break and then we came back again. Those who ran from class, they know themselves. And those who stood with us throughout, they know themselves. But don't worry, both parties, may God grant us success, everybody.
Amen.
That's what is most important. And my own definition of success is not PMP. I hope you know. PMP is 5% of the success
Oh.
I'm looking for.
Hmm.
The success we are looking for is expanded chests. Somebody who can walk with confidence and be able to apply these things in scenario. Things are coming up. You can think in systems. What I mean by thinking in systems is some happens, you know, there's a template to leverage on, there's a system, there's a formula to work with. This is there's a template to work with, a formula to work with. And you know the funny thing, when you are trying to implement these kind of things in your life, you need to have a jobber with you all the time. You need to have some scribbled short notes of all of these things. Each time you want to do something, check your data, then do it. If you do that for 3 months, 4 months, you become a genius because you wouldn't need your data anymore. You'll just be able to implement. You'll be able to do things. You'll be able to raise your hand in meeting and ask questions, and everyone will look back. What is that person? And it's not like from anywhere. Just simple. The interesting thing about knowledge. The interesting about knowledge is that don't underestimate it. When you learn 4 things and you learn them well, those 4 things will lead to 366 things, or 360 things. Because by the time you understand them, the subconscious mind will automatically start looking for relationship between A and B. You start looking for relationship between A and C. Start looking for relationship between A and D, between B and C, between B and A, between B and D. And before you know it, the 4 things you learned will have brought you so much of massive wisdom. You'll be able to connect dots in a way that were not even previously possible in just those 4 points. So there's infinite possibility with all these things you are learning. Sincerely, even myself, I've been teaching these things for so long, and I don't think I've been able to make use of 0.01% of these things I teach. I try, because sometimes when I do some things, or when some people do some things, I imagine bring into blocking. But I now realize that my thinking is conditioned in a way that you have not passed through some form of conditioning, you'll be imagining that how can you think this way? But it is coming natural to you, but it will not come natural to others. And that's the reason why we have to keep working on ourselves to make as much of greatness natural to us. You understand? It's one level to recognize greatness. It's one level to chase greatness. It's another level to have greatness natural to you. As you want to talk and wisdom just rushes into your head and you can just be dishing out wisdom and people will be thinking that someone grateful away, that kind of thing. That's the level. That's our definition of success. And that's the reason why I'm charging you 300,000. Because I'm not teaching you PMP. My goal is to inspire you to go for something far. It's possible. I have some mentors who are like that. You will think that they are working in encyclopedia. And how do they start? Knowledge here and there. Jot things down, review them once in a while, and then before you know it, listen, different disparate dots will start connecting, and then thoughts that they were previously unthinkable start coming out. Wisdom will burn here. Wisdom will burn here. Wisdom will burn here. Let's come back to our talk. Okay, cycles and time boxes. Project teams can set up release cycles and working time blocks. Time boxes are typically in the form of weeks or days for urgency sake. Time boxing is a very interesting thing. Time boxing is a very powerful methodology for productivity. In fact, when you ask a productivity expert, they will tell you that even apart from within projects, within your life, managing operations of your life, there's a principle called Pomodoro. It's a very good example of what we call time boxing. When you box time, okay, let's stop that. Let's read from the slide. But please read about Pomodoro. It's very important. It's one of the very basic principles of how to use time boxing. Hmm? A work will always expand to fill the amount of time you assign to it. If you want to do this work in 6 minutes, you do it in 6 minutes. If you want to do it in 60 minutes, you do 60 minutes. If you want to do it in 600 minutes, you do it in 600 minutes. Of course, it's not sacrosanct, but most of the time, it's the amount of time you give to it that you use for it. So are you able to box your time in such a way that the same way you want to manage projects in sprints, you want to divide your work into small bits, and then you want to do them in sprints of work, rest, work, rest, work, rest. Read about Pomodoro. That should be sufficient for that. Pomodoro, 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 the Pomodoro technique. So time boxes allow for better, hey, telemetry. I've forgotten the meaning of telemetry. Yes, I Google it. Telemetry. 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 Hey, telemetry. Telemetry. Telemetry is the automatic recording and transmission of data from remote or inaccessible sources to an IT system. Okay. I mean, I can't think of, I've forgotten in the comparison thing. Anyway, forget about that one. Like, I don't understand. There's better telemetry over time. Automated communication. Automated communication processes from multiple data sources. Telemetry monitoring is designed to help you more intelligently manage your network. Okay. Time boxing. I think maybe if you just look at telemetry in the direction of monitoring. That's what I can think of. And it makes sense. When you do time boxing, you're able to monitor. I call it close marking. You're able to closely mark your time. Let me give you an example of what we call time boxing. Let me show you how I manage my day. Today is the 18th of April. I don't know if you can see my diary. Oh, sorry. So what I have written here is 7:30 to 8, 7:30 to 8, 7 to 7:30, 7:30 to 8, 8 to 8:30, 8:30 to 9, 9 to 9:30, 9:30 to 10, 10 to 10:30, 10:30 to 11, down, up till 10:30 p.m. in 30 minutes of intervals. Now I have two columns, what I plan to do and what I actually did. When you keep track of time, you'll be amazed at what you'll be able to achieve. The problem is if you don't keep track of time, it just goes. It just goes. We wake up and then we just realize that boom, it's 5 p.m. Boom, it's 10 p.m. When we keep track of time, it makes you better. It improves your telemetry, your the way you are able to what's the word? Monitor and control time. That's that. So cycling the project through similar time boxes provides progress measurements from one time box to the next. With time and repeated cycles, the team gains more predictable measurements and communicates expectations of cycle times throughput velocity. Okay. Is Zakuya journey with us?
Guidelines to measure ongoing
Oh, yeah,
progress.
please proceed. Okay.
Define value from customers' business and or users' perspective.
No, define value from customers' perspective. Define value from
Customers'
business
business.
perspective. There's customers' perspective,
Okay.
business perspective, users' perspective.
That's perspective. Okay. Determine value expectation.
Okay.
Set targets and baselines based on expectations.
Okay.
Determine metrics that communicate progress towards those value expectations. Select one or more means of collecting metric data that is not too cumbersome or time-consuming for the project team. Collect data at a regular interval. Present the data of the progress. Compare the progress with the
Okay.
baselines and expectations. Improve on success or correct areas where progress is not meeting expectations.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. So at this point, we have come to the end of that process. And as you have said, we have come to the end of this class. So I implore us all, actually from this point onwards, all the processes will be coming across, they are very short. Except if you just want to gist, most of them are very short. So all things being equal, in 3 classes time, will be done. In 3 classes time. Or in 2 classes time, will be done. In 2 classes time, will be done. So, and those 2 classes are Wednesday and Friday. If you do class on Wednesday and Friday, Saturday is your first mock exam. Saturday, by God's grace, is the first mock exam. Sunday, you will do mock exam answer. Monday, we go back to the beginning again. But this time, not live classes. To be in the form of reading assignments, tests, and all of those things. We start again from the beginning. So, today marks the end of the 4th week. Am I correct? Next week.
Is it just here or everywhere? The audio is low, that's low.
My audio is low, Abby.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I don't know.
Today marks the end of the 4th week, but we've not finished.
I heard everything, but I didn't hear anything about mock exam.
Okay, you didn't enter a work exam. Okay,
Yes.
I understand. Don't worry. You're deceiving yourself, eh? So anyway, by Wednesday, what you can do to help us finish this class on time is that by Wednesday, you should have reviewed risk management elements. Risk management, communication management. Communication.
Okay, we should read
in the LMS. So if you can review that.
Risk management, communication management. That's for the mock exam, Abi.
Yes. No mock exam, boo. Hello? I was scared. I thought I closed the class. So risk management, communication management, review those 2 knowledge areas is very important. For the mock exam that you will do next Saturday, everything. The mock exam is on everything. Please note, you don't have any excuse not to write the mock exam. You are not in this class to impress anybody with your score. You are here for capacity enhancement. Your score will be made public, but it is in your best interest that you want to revise. Don't make the mistake of dajosi. Whoever wants to write the PMP exam should start looking for, to start talking about registering for the exam. No. We'll start TMGS upper week, upper Monday. That will be somewhere around this 18 plus 7, 25. That will be around 26. So 4 weeks after that 26 is when we'll be done with this coaching program. So 26th of April, 26th of May. So if you want to write the PMP, the best time to write the PMP is 1st week of June. That is last week of May, 1st week of June, 2nd week of June. If you make the mistake of postponing it, Madam Luashi, tell them what will happen to all these things you have learned. Tell them what will happen to all these things you have learned. Okay. Doesn't want to scare you, but me, I will tell you.
No, there's nothing to scare now, because again, the other side of it is that they also need to be confident that they can take the exam. The way there's some things that so if you sense there are still some gaps, it's good to read. But once you have, the other side is there's also no end to reading. So once you know you have covered everything within the syllabus, then you
Wait
should
now.
take the exam.
Now, I said you should go and think of first week in June. April la ma ṣe wà yìí. May ṣe wà láàrin.
Oṣù kan ló wà láàrin ẹ̀, oṣù kan yẹn a dẹ̀ fẹ́ fi ṣe mock exam àti yes.
Is that not part of reading?
And so I think by the end of that time, then a better assessment will be done of where they stand. But I agree with you that I agree.
What is the full meaning of TMGS?
TMGS means turbo mode guided study. That's the meaning.
Yeah.
Turbo mode.
Yeah. Turbo mode guided study.
Guided study.
Guided study.
What is the meaning of that turbo mode?
Give you more information when the time comes. But the summary of turbo guided study is that it is a time that separates the serious to your category.
Yeah.
It separates those who seriously want to be
seriously
learn
and call
from those who just want to just come to class, open Zoom and be taking tea. And when they call your name, pretend as if you have slept. And then when you are ready, you just say, I'm here. Huh? So it's easy to hide behind Zoom. Switch off your video and then you have gone to the kitchen to go and prepare the kind of soup. And then once you hear your name, you just run back to the phone. I'm here. You know, that kind of. Yeah, that's not.
This thing you just described, it's commitment too. It's not easy to be sitting down here every night and be hitting your head on the chair.
Yeah.
Commitment.
I agree. Sincerely, I agree. Sincerely, I agree. Huh? But TMGS, you that you are struggling with this one, TMGS will bring out. You said what?
After PNP
what did you say?
After PNP exam, I want to go and attend another training center.
Don't worry, we'll discuss that one later. Okay. Let me go and eat. Thank you very much, everybody.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
See you Wednesday. Assignment in me. Come on, me lójú oorun. Good double.
We'll do it. Good night, sir. Rest.